What is up, YouTube? It is the Ville Outdoors here. Today is June 15th of 2021. I just got back from my Florida trip yesterday and right back in the action today. We are at a creek that I've only fished twice in my lifetime, and it's the first time I fished this creek in several years. Upon arriving here, it seems like we got a good amount of rain while I was gone because the water looks to be up quite a bit and a little muddy today, so I'm not sure how that will affect our fishing. Alright guys, well, it looks like we're not going to be fishing this creek today, unfortunately. I should have checked the water levels before I left the house. I didn't think it rained that much, but if you look down there, the water's just a little too muddy and moving a little too fast to make it safe for us to wade today. So I'm going to try a spot that's a little more local now and see if we can do some fishing there, see if the water's clean enough. Alright guys, we have made it to spot number 2. This is the Skipback Creek that we were at now, and just like the Manatawny Creek that we were at earlier today, the river is not too far downstream from this particular spot, but as you can see, the water's like 100 times cleaner over here at the Skipback Creek than it was at the Manatawny Creek, which is really odd how that little distance can change the water that much. But it's like crystal clear conditions here, and Manatawny Creek, it was like borderline chocolate milk type stuff. It's here earlier this year, sometime in May, and caught a couple smallmouth bass and a few little sunfish, but that was earlier when the water wasn't quite up to temperature and the fish really weren't biting too crazily. Now that we're here at a better time in the year, I think we're going to catch a lot of fish today. As we got a deep little pocket right here, we got some little bubblies on the top flowing just a bit. There's got to be some sort of fish in here. I can see some sort of bass, it looks like, in front of me, so I'm not going to try and make any sudden movements. And we got a little guy on, a little smallie. I knew there was going to be smallmouth in here. Look at that. Not the biggest smallmouth bass you'll ever see, but it's a nice little creek smallmouth to get us started on the smallies for the day. Let's go ahead and get them unhooked here. And since it's our first one of the day, we'll take a shot of them too. There you go, guys, just a little guy, but he'll do for our first one of the day. Well, I guess we're not taking a shot of him because he just slipped out of my hands, but I almost guarantee there'll be another one in there. And we already had a fish on. Oh, did it again. Yep, you got it. That's our little red breast though. There we go. Tiny but pretty. Hooked him right on the bottom of the mouth. And he's gone. There we go, guys. Got another species on the line here. First one of these for the day. Probably won't be the last. Got a nice little rock bass here. There we go. Pretty looking fish. Let's go ahead and take a shot and release this guy. Alright guys, gonna unhook our rock bass nice and easily here. We're just gonna drop him in at our feet. There's a little crayfish there. Crayfish are probably what most of these fish are feeding on, that and little aquatic insects that are just hanging out on these rocks, because this is a real rocky bottom creek. There's not a whole lot of that silty stuff that you would get in some places. A lot of the bottom is just solid chunks of slate, actually. We're getting to some of the deeper holes here, so I switched up to the Leland Lures Trout Slayer. It's a little crayfish jig. A little bit bigger than the Trout Magnet in size, so I'll still have that finesse kind of profile in this clear water, and it's got the natural color pattern on it, which will give it that natural crayfish look. And hopefully these smallmouth will be honed in on feeding on these crayfish, and we can catch a bunch of nice smallmouth bass out of here. Last time I was at this particular spot, I was catching them all on a little, I would say probably about a 2.5 inch original Rapala floating minnow. And now we're using a crayfish imitation. So they're probably feeding on a little bit of both, but we'll see what does better here. Oh, we did a little jump. This one's a bit nicer than the one we caught earlier. He's putting up a bit more of a fight. There's another one with him. He's not wanting to give in. This ain't bad at all for a creek smallie. Look at that one there, guys. Beautiful fish. That is what we were after right there. That was the one. Ate the crayfish jig just like we said he would. Pretty little fish. Let's get a shot and release this guy. Alright guys, time to release our smallmouth here. Beautiful fish. He's ready to go. We were dragging this crayfish lure right off the edge of the rocks, just popping it up and down, and he came and slurped it right off one of the pops. We're gonna see if we can get some more, because there's definitely more in this creek. This is a very good creek for amount of food. There's crayfish just absolutely everywhere. I just had a bigger fish follow me in. I don't know if that was a smallmouth or not, but because of the amount of food, these smallmouth are able to get to good sizes for southeastern Pennsylvania creeks. In my last video at this spot, this cliff right here, this natural rock wall, this is actually the same exact rock wall that I caught a fish off of in my last video on the little jerkbait. So let's see if there's a smallmouth around here that wants to play with our little crayfish imitation. I imagine there would be. It's a nice deep pocket we got. There's a fish. Oh, is that a trout? It's a trout. We call it trout, guys. Split our hands so we can handle this fish properly. Okay, relax, buddy. I'm gonna help you. There you go, guys. That fish is a long way from where it's supposed to be, but nice trout on the Trout Slayer there. Well, guys, any day that we can catch a trout is a good day. Oh boy. All right, he's good to go. He unhooked himself, fell right back in the water. He was good. That was definitely a surprise. I didn't think they stocked trout near this end at all. And sure enough, there was a trout a long way from home. Must be a holdover, because there's no easy access to this spot as far as I know. It could have been stocked a little bit farther, let's see, upstream or a little farther downstream. It could have been either way, and I guess somehow it just fell in here over the time in between stockings. Rain might have washed it in, or it may have just swam upstream naturally, but it seemed like it was doing well. Didn't have any issues going on with him. He swam back perfectly fine. So nice to see that these trout aren't turning too quick in here. Guys, we got a smallmouth on here. I just watched this fish come up and eat it. It's not a terrible one. Similar in size to the one we caught earlier, probably a bit smaller, but a nice nice smallie overall. He just spat up a crawfish leg, so that shows me that what we're using is the right thing. Look, you can see his mouth's all red. That's because he's been eating the crayfish. Crayfish been pinching at him. A nice little fish there. Let's go ahead and get a shot and release this guy. There you go, guys. Once again, that fish came on the Leland Lures Trout Slayer, little crayfish imitation. Matching the hatch can work wonders for you. That little crayfish there looks just like a baby crayfish that swims in this creek. It's what these fish have been feeding on. Like I said, when I was reeling that last smallmouth in, you could actually see the crayfish leg just jump out of the water from his mouth. And how that fish's lips were all red. It wasn't makeup, it was little markings and blisters and whatnot from trying to pick these crayfish up at the bottom, because these aren't terribly small crayfish that are in this creek. They're good size. They will put a mean pinch on you if you don't grab them in the right spot. And these smallmouth just love going after those little crustaceans. As soon as I hit the water, I saw the fish come up from right over here, this edge of this current, and just eat the crayfish. I didn't even feel him bite. I just saw him come over towards it. I started reeling, and he was on there. Smallmouth on, guys. There's two of them. One of them's on my line, one of them's falling in. Smaller than one we just caught. Psst. Just got creek water in my eyes. Got him right on the corner of the mouth. Doesn't want to stay still for the camera, I guess. More than one. Yeah, come back towards it. Yep. Got him. Yep, there he is. Oh yeah. Get up here, buddy. Oh my gosh, there's a whole school. This one's the bigger one though. He doesn't like that. That might be the nicest one of the day, actually. That's a thick girl. Look at how he ate that. Absolutely inhaled that. Woohoo! Like me some of that. Well, guys, we reached the point of the unknown. I haven't fished this section of the creek. In my last video, I did not venture this far, which probably means we're not doing any fishing on the way back, but it is what it is. A little more aquatic vegetation up on this end. It looks like some hydrilla, I would have to say. I haven't seen too many smallmouth bass so far. I've just seen the one. A lot of still water. Don't know if this is going to be good or not. I'm trying to look for any drop-offs or anything of that nature that'll hold fish. We're in here deep now. This looks more like a river than the creek at this point. I don't know how much farther I'm going to go up, because we have walked well over several miles, but I just have a feeling that I just have to keep fishing. I want to get at least one more good sized smallmouth before the video ends, so I'm going to try and switch things up. Maybe get a little crankbait or jerkbait going on here, and we'll see if we can catch anything. Right under this tree here in the shade line, but they weren't into Clifford the Big Red crankbait, so I switched it up to this little Rapala suspending jerkbait, little shiner pattern on there, and we're going to try and catch one of these fish, because I was getting looks there for a while, almost every cast, but they weren't committing to it. probably because it looked a little unnatural to them. So I'm gonna see if we can get something to bite on this jerkbait here. All right, guys, didn't have any luck fishing that real wide section. Here it gets a little bit narrower, a little bit shallower. Still a chance for some good fish to be hiding around, so I'm gonna fish this one little section, but I think that's gonna be all for us today because it's getting to midday. Fishing's slowed down a lot, but it's gonna slow down even more before it hits the evening when it picks back up again. I've been out since very early this morning, so we're gonna try and make this quick and efficient and hopefully land a monster before we end today's video. See if we can have some first cast magic over here. Not even a follow. Not a good sign. Look at that, guys. We just got a holdover rainbow on the Rapala. I think this is what I was getting follow me in on the Rapala downstream, or on that big crayfish crankbait. But that's cool, little trout. All right, guys, let's unhook our trout here. He's not too happy. Just gonna go for release right here. There he is. That fish followed me in all the way from the bank. So there's probably more somewhere back there, because not oftentimes these holdover trout will be solo. Sometimes they travel in little groups. In fact, I think that's one right in front of me. He was probably looking for the Rapala too. All right, guys, I said I was done recording for the day, but first cast, I just caught another rainbow trout. Hopefully it doesn't shake the hooks on me. Got him. That's definitely the nicest one of the day right there. Let's take a shot and let's let this guy go, and then we'll end the video for real now. All right, guys, time to release this little rainbow trout here. Actually, he's not too little, but beautiful fish. It's always good to see that these fish are staying healthy in here. All right, guys, that is going to do it for us today. I probably walked into a different state from where I first started. It was about, what, 9:15-ish when I first started, and now it's almost 2 o'clock. I would walk further. It looks pretty fishy, but I gotta get home at some point today. There's other stuff I wanted to get done. But we didn't have a bad day. We caught 2 holdover trout, which was quite a surprise. And then we caught a couple nice smallmouth bass, and of course, probably dozens of sunfish. I didn't show all of them on camera, but I caught a bunch of them. I might fish a little bit here and there on my way back, but probably not a whole lot. So it's nothing gonna be worth recording. But if I catch anything cool on my way back, I'll be sure to put it on my Instagram for you guys. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, maybe learned a little bit about creek fishing. And be sure to stay tuned for my future episodes. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. And I'll see you guys on the next episode of the Ville Outdoors. Peace out.